Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Tuesday, March 23rd. Council is in the chambers today, spaced evenly, as we should be. The clerk is here and the CAO. All other staff are zooming in for deputations and questions and such. So I'll call the meeting to order. I'll ask if you'll stand and join us in the singing of O Canada. Thank you. Please join me for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Can I get a motion? I think Councillor Dunn, you have it, for the adoption of the open session agenda as amended, please.
There we go. It's been a while. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Elmsley, that the agenda for the open session of the regular council meeting of Tuesday, March the 23rd, 2021 be adopted as circulated with the following amendments. Addition 14.1, memorandum from Rebecca Mustard, Manager of Economic Development, regarding skill development fund application.
Thank you. All in favor? That's passed. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in anything on today's agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to take a couple minutes and recess our council meeting. The Kawartha Lakes Haliburton Housing Corporation, we're going to have a quick shareholders meeting. I'm just going to ask the chair, Councillor Dunn, to run it from a seat over there. So I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I call this meeting to order. Meeting of the Kawartha Lakes Haliburton Housing Corporation to order. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved by Councillor O'Reilly, seconded by Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That motion is carried. We have new business. I'm going to read the entire motion just so we know, and then if there's any questions, I'll answer them. Move that report 2021-11, Kawartha Lakes Housing Corporation bylaw number 10, a bylaw amending the section, amending section 6 of the bylaw number 4, delegations of power to appoint and designate chief executive officers. Resolve that report 2021-00011, Kawartha Lakes Housing Corporation bylaw number 10, a bylaw amending section 6 of bylaw number 4, delegation of powers to appoint and designate the chief executive officer, be received. Whereas the corporation conducted a governance and operational review dated December 2nd, 2020, whereby it recommended that the chief executive officer of Kawartha Lakes Haliburton Housing Corporation and the housing manager of the city of Kawartha Lakes be divided into two single roles. Whereas bylaw number 4 of the corporation authorizes the board of directors to appoint a chief executive officer of the corporation and decide the terms and remuneration of said chief executive officer. And whereas the corporation wishes to approve and adopt bylaw number 10, being a bylaw to amend section 6 of bylaw number 4 of the corporation, and whereas it is now in the best interest of the corporation to enter into bylaw number 10, being a bylaw to amend section 6 of bylaw number 4, now therefore it be resolved that the corporation enters into, executes, and delivers bylaw number 10, a copy of which is attached hereto as Schedule A, that the corporation amend section 6 of bylaw number 4 in accordance with bylaw number 10. Wow. Okay, and basically what that means, because we divided our two positions, we used to have one person who was the chief executive officer of the Housing Corporation. She simultaneously was the manager of housing for the city of Kawartha Lakes. Both jobs have grown over the years as we've expanded our housing stock, and it's now important that we divide those two jobs. This amendment to the bylaw from the shareholders permits us to hire a new chief executive officer. And if I have no further questions, I'll ask for a resolution to adopt the motion. Moved by Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor or Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Hearing no further comments, all those in favor? This motion is carried. And can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Moved by Councillor O'Reilly, seconded by Councillor Seymour Fagan. All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll call the regular council meeting back to order. Item 5, notices and information by members of council and staff. Anyone on council? Councillor Seymour Fagan, go ahead.
Yes, hi, thank you. Through you, I have some great news. So the Kawartha Lakes community and Bobcaygeon community nominated the Bobcaygeon Verulam Community Center for Craft Hockeyville. This past Saturday, it was announced that it was selected as one of 4 finalists. The grand champion will be announced in early April, and the winner receives $250,000 towards facility upgrades and the hosting of an NHL preseason game. The funds will be used towards accessible upgrades for the facility. Period. So far, we will be receiving $25,000 for upgrades, but if we do win and we get enough votes in, we will receive the $250,000 and the NHL game. So what I'd like everyone to do is see if they can get online on Hockeyville, Craft Hockeyville, on April 9th and 10th, because that's how it's based right now. The judging has been done, we're in the 4 finalists, and now it's votes. So it's up to everyone else to come out and rally for the community. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Councillor Elmsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This Sunday in the Toronto Star, in the travel section, there was a very nice write-up on Fenelon Falls and some of the businesses in Fenelon, and inviting people to come and check us out. So hopefully they do, and hopefully they wait till this summer so we have our street back in repair. And speaking of that, that construction is going very well and is ahead of schedule, and Coco Paving and our engineering department have proposed that rather than stopping on the 24th of May weekend, that they continue to work through to the 18th of June, at which time they will shut down. But it is expected that the roadway and the curbs will all be in at that stage, and they will only have to come back in the fall to do the sidewalks and the electrical and the other things that are at the side of the street. So I think it's a good news story, and with the weather cooperating, hopefully we can finish even before the 18th of June and get our businesses opened up for the summer. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw that article as well. It was a nice article on Fenelon Falls. You're right. Anyone else? Councillor Ashmore?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few announcements. Mimi, in the next few weeks, they'll be announcing a new service club, and the service club's name will be the Omimi Swans Club. So some exciting news there for a new service club in the village of Omimi. I'd like to recognize a local para-Olympian, John Thurston. He's from Dunsford. And after a construction accident in 2008, which left him paralyzed from the chest down, John Thurston immediately turned to sport. Besides wheelchair curling, he is one of Canada's top water skiers with a disability. He is also an archer, a boxer, and does jiu-jitsu. In archery, one of the instructors is none other than the retired 5-time Olympian Alex Dennis. And usually on a curling team, it's the skip that shoots last, but Team Canada skip Mark Idelson, noticing Thurston's marksmanship, decided to put the young protege in the pressure situation. So far, the gamble has paid off. Thurston is the youngest national team member at 35 and only started playing in 2012. The first tournament with Thurston as last rock pulled Canada out of a hole. They won the Pool B, the B Pool Worlds. Canada was relegated after the 12th place at the 2019 Worlds, which put Canada back in the A group. They then won the silver medal at the 2020 World Championship in early March. With this recent success, Canada Paralympics Games champions 2006, 2010, 2014, and bronze medalists in 2018. And John will be heading back to be on the Beijing 2022 Paralympic team. So congratulations to John Thurston, super athlete. And March is Epilepsy Awareness Month. It's a great time for anyone with an interest in epilepsy to raise awareness, challenge myths, and help dismantle the stigma of epilepsy. The 26th of March, which is this Friday, is a Purple Day, a time to get people talking about epilepsy and raise awareness of the condition and raise vital funds. So I'll dedicate that day to my cousin Dale Long, who many years ago died of an epileptic event. So that day's for him. Finally, Pizza Day is Friday in Dunsford, a delicious way to support your local community center. Dunsford Community Center pizza fundraiser, homemade medium cheese pizza or pepperoni pizza for $10. The food prep is done in government-inspected kitchen and food handlers in place at the Dunsford Community Center. The Dunsford Community Center pizza fundraiser, all proceeds will be going to support the community center, and each pizza is $10. They can still be ordered by calling Lori at 705-793-9896. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to update, the vaccination site is ongoing, and it's at the Lex, and I believe that the one in Fenelon Falls is going to open in the first week of April. I believe that's what the plans are for the 5th of April. Yeah. Okay. Flato Developments, they're a developer that's come to our area, and they've got options on some land and property on the east side of Highway 36. They made a $25,000 donation yesterday to the Ross Memorial Hospital, and Mayor Letham was there for the presentation. Lakeland Extendicare last week in Councillor Dunn's ward, and Councillor Dunn and I were there, and they announced that 96 new beds and 64 refurbished units will be coming forward over a period of time. And yesterday was International Water Day. It's really fresh water, and there's 2.2 billion people in the world living without access to water worldwide.
Anyone else? Councillor Dunn, did you want to update us on, give us a quick update on your process for the off-road vehicle task force?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had our first meeting in February, and since then we've met practically every week, culminating on March the 19th with an open public session. We had 26 people were there as delegates. We were able to hear them all. It took us about 2.5 hours. Some ideas were good. Some ideas were off track, I think is a nice way to say that. Our function was to identify routes to join trails together. Snow machines are a major concern, but they're not the focus of this task force. But everybody was, and there was definitely two different opposing sides. Everybody was polite and made their points that they had to make. The challenge going forward is there are some inaccuracies in the points that were made, and it'll be up to the task force through communications to try and address some of those questions. We've had 796 people visit our website. We started a survey on Friday. So far, 572 people have completed the survey since Friday, and up until just shortly ago, it was a tough site to get into. You did a lot of wheeling and so on and so forth to get into it. That has been simplified since then, and I'm going to give the address at the end of my very brief talk. We've had 395 pieces of email that were sent to us. Once again, some of the information was constructive and suggested different routes. Some of them, because the task force felt they didn't fall within our purview. And I'll give you one example. Somebody wanted to go right straight up William Street and hook up with the trail at the William Street Eglinton connection. It's not a trail approved for ATVs at that point, and it wasn't accepted by the task force. Some of the questions that were raised were that originally, because of communication, not necessarily ours, people thought we were taking over all the trails in Lindsay. And once the report and the recommendations came out, a lot of those fears were put aside, and I'm quite thankful for that. We're moving forward. We've got a route through Lindsay being recommended to council. We're going to bring our report forward on the 4th of May. The reason why is, although we've been in verbal conversations with a lot of agencies, they've been unable, or it'd be unfair, I guess, to say that we asked them to prepare a report on recommendations that we hadn't made yet. So now that we've crafted the recommendations, we're asking them to come forward with reports, and they'll be presented on May the 4th along with everything else. Please get involved in the survey. I don't think I have to tell people this. As I said, we had 796 visits to our site so far, so people are interested. The address is simple, www.kawarthalakes.ca/ORVs. You go into the site, you register, and you fill out the survey. And those numbers will continue to take information on the survey until the 17th of April. And once again, communications will have a report for us to be presented on the 4th of May. I've got two of the task force are sitting in the room, and in case I miss something, if either one of them wish to add something, I invite them to do so.
Thank you for the update. Covered? Good. So I've got an exciting announcement. You'll bear with me. The Ontario Parks Association represents municipalities and parks departments across the province with the provincial government. They have annual awards, with one of the highest being the Urban Design Award, recognizing municipal staff, landscape architects, urban designers, developers, and other individuals responsible for the design of municipal parks, public spaces, streetscapes, and urban intensification projects that have a focus on protecting our environment through the use of sustainable green infrastructure innovations and technologies. 2020 saw the redevelopment of Logie Park. The city wanted to create and develop a new focal point that would act as both an entranceway and a destination park. One of Kawartha Lake's largest redevelopments and most innovative parks that has amenities for all and will attract all demographics. Just off Logie Street is an expanded parking lot to allow for event hosting. Overlooking the park sits a fun and inclusive climbing structure. Along the path below, we have our playground area with other unique structures, including a zip line and sand play area for digging and imaginative play, and a splash pad. Accessible by the road, the Trent Severn Waterway with a boat dock, home to a section of the Kawartha Trans-Canada Trail. Visitors can attend the park in a multitude of ways. For the winter, the city has also installed an artificial skating loop right next to a lodge-style facility, including change rooms. All of this connected by an upgraded trail system. And of course, the return of the Lilacs as the home of the Lilacs for Lindsay. Investments like Logie Park are investments into our entire community. The amenities here offer a variety of ways to stay active year-round, and it's a development we can all take great pride in. The entire team of Jen Johnson, Manager of Parks, Recreation, and Culture, Rod Porter, Capital and Special Projects Supervisor, and Ryan Smith, Parks and Open Spaces Supervisor of the City of Kawartha Lakes, working with Nick Carchidi Excavating Limited, and Adam Hoover, Stuart C. McElroy, and Associates work together to bring this excellent example of urban design redevelopment to life. The Ontario Parks Association is pleased to announce that Jen Johnson, Manager of the City of Kawartha Lakes Parks, Recreation, and Culture Division, as the winner of the 2020 Urban Parks Design. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, the announcement is being made today. However, a future, 4 to 6 weeks down the road, formal awards presentation will be made on site when we can at Logie Park. And we're just going to show a quick video. Just everybody sees it. So congratulations, Jen Johnson and the team from all of us here at Council.
As Lindsay continues to grow, the city wanted to create and develop a focal point that would act as both an entranceway and destination park. The team has worked hard the past couple of years, and we're excited to finally open Logie Park, one of Kawartha Lake's largest redevelopments and most innovative parks with amenities for all. Just off Logie Street, we have expanded parking to allow for event hosting and to make traveling easier. Overlooking the park sits a fun and inclusive climbing structure. Along the path below, we have our playground area with other unique structures, including a zip line, a sand area for digging and imaginative play, and a splash pad. The public can visit the park in a variety of ways, with access by road, a boat dock off the Trent Severn Waterway, and a path that's connected to the Kawartha Trans-Canada Trail. For fun in the winter, we've also installed an artificial skating oval right next to a lodge-style facility with washrooms. All this connected by an upgraded trail system and, of course, the return of our Lilacs as the home of the Lilacs for Lindsay.
Investments like Logie Park are investments into our entire community. We all know how important recreational activity is, not only for physical health, but for mental health as well. These amenities here offer a variety of ways to stay active year-round, and it's a development we can all take great pride in.
We're really excited to be here to announce the opening of Logie Park. As a member and councillor of Ward 7, I'm thankful for the work done by everyone involved and thrilled to see it come together. I know it's been highly anticipated by many residents, and our community will enjoy it for many years to come.
Welcome to Logie Park, one of Kawartha Lake's most beautiful and accessible public parks.
Great, well done. Congratulations again, thank you. Any announcements from staff? No? Okay. Council minutes, item 6. I need receive and adopt regular council meeting minutes of February 23rd, 2021, and the special council meeting minutes of March 16th, 2021 as well. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. All in favor? That's passed. Item 7 is deputations. We don't have any deputations. Item 8 is correspondence. We have a couple pieces of correspondence. The first one is regarding winter parking lot maintenance in downtown Lindsay from Melissa McFarland, the Executive Director, Lindsay Downtown BIA, and Steve Podolsky, Vice Chair of the Lindsay Downtown BIA. It's regarding the winter maintenance downtown. We do have a report coming back in Q3 on our enhanced service in the downtown, so if it's okay with council, I would suggest we receive the correspondence and refer it to the report coming back on the downtown service enhancements, and I think it'll fit with that. So if you're good with that, we need a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor O'Reilly, seconded by Councillor Elmsley. Questions? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Second correspondence we have is regarding docking in Thurstonia from Brian Gray. I'll ask for a motion. We did receive some late correspondence on Friday from David Webb regarding the same process docking. I'll just suggest that we receive the correspondence from Brian Gray and David Webb regarding docking in Thurstonia, and refer both of those to the public process coming up later this summer. If I can get a mover, Councillor Seymour Fagan, seconded by Councillor Ashmore. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. We don't have any presentations. Item 9, we'll go over to Committee of the Whole. So let me find my package here. We had a couple, Councillor Ashmore has a couple of questions he wanted to ask, and then we'll see if they lead to extractions, Councillor. So what we'll do is we'll deal with those first, and then we'll see if there's any other extractions. Currently, you had a question you wanted to bring up on 1031, the old jail museum, or do you want to wait till the report comes back in April?
Yeah, I'll wait for the report to come back. That's fine.
Okay, fair enough. And 1037, you had a question on the J. Edwards case management system.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question on, maybe to the CAO, on the timing of the work that's going to be done on this, when the next report may come to council on this particular topic of the case management system. That's all, just an update.
Thanks. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So some of the enhancements that we talked about a few weeks ago will be happening sort of immediately or in the immediate term. I mentioned in the last presentation, our standard has been an annual formal report through to council. That update a couple of weeks ago represented up to 2020. Regardless, we would have a year-end update on activity for the 2021 season. And then I'll just add that what I'm hopeful for, though, is in advance of that, we'll be starting to provide some of the enhancements and information through our website as committed through different dashboards and accounting and reporting on various cases and what we're doing. So that's going to be ongoing sort of efforts throughout 2021.
Okay. No need to extract it? Okay. And then you also had a question on 10.3.12, the proposed amendments to the dock encroachment policy.
Through you to, I guess, Realty or Solicitor?
Yeah, I
you're
think
on
we
board.
can get Robin, our city solicitor, Ms. Carlson, on the line. I know she was there earlier. There she is.
Okay.
We got them both. We got the A-team, so it better be a good question. Go ahead.
Just two quick questions. The first one is Cedar Glen. That's one of the communities that has been proposed for the dock enforcement policy. Can we get a clear indication of what's happening as far as the ownership of the road right now? Because we have to determine who exactly owns this road and shoreline before we do anything further. Is that not correct? And what sort of status is it at right now, please?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, we still don't have an update on where the file stands. It's still with external counsel, and I don't have an update to provide with respect to ownership at this time.
I might be able to jump in and give a little bit of an update. On February the 18th, the application was filed with the court to determine ownership status, and we are waiting for a response. It will be a response in writing, so we won't get a hearing date. We'll just receive the order. So we're waiting for that. It's clear from the documentation that the ownership should have been transferred into the city's name. We were unsuccessful in getting the registry office to recognize that, and so therefore we're going through the courts to get a declaration of ownership that would direct the registry office to correct the title. We are now preparing to do proactive enforcement in Cedar Glen until 2022, which gives enough time for this process to conclude before we start with dock encroachment.
Thanks. Just a question, and some of the folks there have expressed an interest to form an association to work it out themselves. Is that something they could do just on their own? They seem like they want to bind together and work out their issues. Is that something that we could do before it goes to public consultation? If this group, Maple or Cedar Glen, was able to work out their issues just on their own?
through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by them work out their issues. We are looking at providing them the ability to be licensed for docking in their area. The only areas that wouldn't be able to be licensed would be those that would be in contradiction to already existing registered third-party rights. But it appears that the docks that are there would fit if the spacing, if we were try to correct the spacing to the 6 feet between the docks, it seems that there would be enough room for all the people that are in that area. Just maybe we might need to realign some of the docks. So I don't know if that answered your question.
I think it does, Sherry, and just for clarification, that through the public process, if that group in that area, Cedar Glen, wanted to come forward as part of a solution, form an association to, you know, sort of look after their docks as one licensed community, could they just bring forward that input through the public process, and then we can have that discussion, obviously, before 22, whether that's a viable option moving forward? I think that's what the councillor's asking.
Okay, sorry. We would prefer to have them each have individual licenses rather than have it be a group agreement. It's easier if it's the owner that has the license with the city rather than a group.
Thank you.
Just one more question. The term backlot owners, so we discussed this, and I think we haven't put it to bed yet, but I just want to get clarification on backlot owners. So those who have properties that are not along the shorelines, they're still going to be allowed to have the opportunity to lease. And that just doesn't just apply to Thurstonia, but to other communities. So basically, backlot owners and front lot owners, or whatever you want to call them, they have the same chance of getting a lease or renewing a lease. So there's no class system, how do you put it, I guess.
As it stands right now, we would be, we've amended it to say that we would keep the backlot owners in Thurstonia and Cedar Glen and Hickory Beach. Those are the 3 areas that we've excluded that restriction from.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. I think the questions are good. So are there any other, we don't need any extractions then, are there any extractions from Committee of the Whole from anyone else? So seeing none, can I get a motion that the minutes of the March 9th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting be received and the recommendations included in section 10.3 of the agenda be adopted? Is that Councillor Seymour Fagan, second by Councillor Richardson. Any questions, comments? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Let me catch up here. Does that mean the chicken one went through, Kathleen? I think so, eh? Planning Advisory Committees. Are there any extractions? I don't have any ahead of time on planning. Are we good with all the planning reports? I don't see my motion. Where's my motion for planning? No. So what's the motion for planning then, that the, Madam Clerk, that the correspondence in 11.1 to 11.135, 11.1, oh, business arising from the planning, sorry. That all the proposed no, I don't have the motion for planning, so what do we usually say? Planning minutes be received and adopted? All the recommendations be received and adopted. Councillor Vail, Chair, you'll move that. Seconded by Council Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Any questions? All in favor? That's passed. And we are at consent reports. Is item 12. Item 12, I have some extractions. So, Councillor Vail, you have these reports. I have 1211, the cannabis cultivation and processing operations extracted by Councillor Richardson. I have 1212, the high water bill relief, 53 Guy Crescent, extracted by Councillor Dunn. I have 1213, the high water bill relief, 181 Kent Street in Lindsay, West in Lindsay, extracted by Councillor Dunn. I have 1216. You had a question, Councillor Ashmore, on the GERB. We might as well extract it while we're extracting the others. So 1216, construction of concrete sidewalks, curbs, and gutters by Councillor Ashmore. And I have 1219, the City Hall Bell Cupola, Councillor Elmsley. And I have 12110, the review for curbside leaf and yard collection extracted by Councillor Richardson. Are there any other extractions from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Councillor Vail.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Richardson, that all of the proposed resolutions shown in section 12.1 of the agenda be approved and adopted by council in the order that they appear on the agenda and sequentially numbered, save and except for items 12.1.1, 12.1.2, 12.1.3, 12.1.6, 12.1.9, 12.1.10.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Those are passed. First extraction, 1211, cannabis cultivation and processing operations. Councillor Richardson, your extraction.
Yes, and through you. I just wanted to bring it up and maybe have a bit of an overview. I know this report deals with the proposed amendments to the property standards bylaw, and that new language is being established through the Agricultural Advisory Committee. And I just was wondering, it's good to give an update to the rest of the councillors. I was privy to sit in that meeting and understand it a little bit better, so I'm just looking for a recap of that if we can.
Our solicitor, and we have our Mr. Derwitz planner as well, so I don't know who wants to give an overview, but I'll leave it with you guys.
Well, I can perhaps speak to the bylaw that's before you today, and perhaps Mr. Derwitz can speak to the planning amendments that are on the agenda as a related item. So this came to you several months ago, and the amendments proposed to the property standards bylaw, which deal with light penetration, odor, ventilation from within a building, were only to be received and then reviewed by the Agricultural Advisory Committee. When the bylaw was reviewed, the only concern that the Ag Committee had was that we should make it specifically clear that our bylaw doesn't apply to farming practices on agriculturally zoned land, normal farming practices. So if a cannabis crop is on ag zoned land and it is it's crops growing, it's agricultural and would have that same protection that any agricultural business would have under Farm and Food Production Protection Act. So it was with that in mind that I went back to the drawing board and just provided some additional clarification in this bylaw to make sure that when someone's reading it, they understand that it's only to capture residential growth for oneself, or it's to capture production in industrial areas, and that type of activity would be caught by these additional protections. The protections themselves are important because they protect human health. People living in the residence, if they have a medical license and are producing cannabis, it will enable the property to be ventilated and therefore be assistive to the people living in that home to live so safely.
Okay, thanks, Robin. I guess I'll jump in on that one as well. So, a great segue to the proposed amendments for the zoning bylaws pertaining to cannabis production and processing. So the setbacks that will be implemented or that are proposed are intended to mitigate concerns with regards to odors. That is the intent of those setbacks. As outlined in the amendments put forward that went through the PAC, the Planning Advisory Committee, based on conversations with, or I guess consultation with the Agricultural Development Advisory Committee, we are proposing to revise that setback that we described in the report. As currently stated, it goes from property line to property line, the 70 meters or the 300 meters, depending on whether or not the facility is equipped with air filtration control. So we are proposing to amend that to building line or edge of crop to building line of a sensitive land use. So that will allow for a little bit of greater flexibility and kind of broaden it a little bit and not be so restrictive as to where potential cannabis production and processing facilities can be located. Because taking a property line to property line approach does result in a fair bit of, it kind of sterilizes the land in a sense, as you can't, it's just wasted space, frankly. Whereas if we took it building line to building line or edge of crop to building line of a sensitive land use, it allows for a little bit of greater flexibility and isn't as quite of a hard line on the proposed use. As far as consultation with the public goes, there were 2 letters detailing concerns. I believe it was 2 from the Planning Advisory Committee meeting, and since then, no others have been received from the public. I am still waiting, or staff are still waiting on comments from the Ontario Ministry of Agricultural, Food and Rural Affairs, as well as the OFA, Ontario Federation of Agriculture, to just confirm or vet our proposed amendments to the zoning bylaws. And I do hope to hear from them in the near future, sooner rather than later. And other than that, that is where the cannabis amendments file for zoning is. I would just like to note that, as I alluded to, or as I stated in the PAC meeting, the City of Kawartha Lakes is in a favorable position right now with regards to this amendment because we have a rural zoning bylaw consolidation project that is also happening, as many of you are aware of. So if, for instance, if these amendments to the cannabis production and processing facilities were approved, and for some reason there were 1 or 2 things that really stuck out, these really weren't working, farmers not only of cannabis but other crops were had concerns that it is impeding the normal right to farm or those guidelines, we can certainly amend those cannabis regulations through the rural zoning bylaw consolidation process. So we got a bit of a saving grace there, just to make everyone aware of that, and we got a little bit of a security net on that one.
Thank you. So just for clarification, this report in front of us today is not dealing with the zoning. It's just dealing with an amendment to the property standards bylaw, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Councillor?
No, thank you, and that's what I was looking for, a little bit more clarification, just because, we want to have some teeth into this project, because we are going into the growing season again. And no, I appreciate all the hard work that's being done on this, and I know we're still headed in the right direction, so thank you.
Do you do you want to read it? Do you have it in front of you? Just so the public knows.
At this time, the regulation of the nuisance associated with cannabis cultivation and processing operations within the City of Kawartha Lakes. The report regulations of nuisance associated with cannabis cultivation and processing operations within the City of Kawartha Lakes be received, and the amendment to the property standards bylaw as outlined in Appendix A to report LGL 2021-003 be brought forward to Council for adoption.
Thank you. Second by? You'll second it? And you have a question? Do you want to speak to it, or you already have? So moved by Councillor Richardson, second by Councillor Elmsley. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that currently there are no legal cannabis operations in the city of Kawartha Lakes at this time.
Jonathan, I think we had that discussion at planning. Did you hear the question? He's just looking for confirmation there's no legal grow-op facilities licensed in City of Kawartha Lakes at this time.
Through the mayor, that is correct. I have not heard of any since the Planning Advisory Committee meeting coming up either.
Thank you. Any other questions on the motion? Councillor Ashmore?
Just a question through you to the planners. Jonathan, if Health Canada issues a license to a location, does the city get notified in any way, shape, or form that this particular property has a license attached to it? Do we know?
Through the mayor to Councillor Ashmore. So the licenses are issued to a producer, and it is essentially, and Robin, if you can, if I'm misspeaking at all, look to Robin to confirm. But the license is issued to the producer, and the producer is supposed to notify the city, the municipality. That's kind of where the guideline stops, is as, quote, the municipality when they receive a license. And that's sort of as far as the notification goes, from what I understand. If it's, there's no like zoning notification, we would just receive a building permit or whatever development permit application for that use.
Yes, and this question is stretching my memory a little bit. I see that the manager of municipal law enforcement is on the call, so perhaps he could help me out. But my recollection is the medical license is not something that's circulated to the city. However, it may be the case that an agricultural license is.
Aaron, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, there's two classes of license basically. So, but the bottom line is the municipality is sometimes notified and sometimes not notified. In the case, most times we're not notified. We only find out about it through interaction with the OPP or interaction with the actual property owner. They're very quick to produce their federal license or their provincial license.
Thank you. Councillor, you good? Okay, any other questions? Thanks, folks. We have a motion and a mover and a seconder for the cannabis. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Next extraction, 1212, is high water bill relief, 53 Gee Crescent in Lindsay. Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion. If I get a seconder, I'll speak to it. Move the report Corporation 2021-004 high water relief bill at 53 Gee Avenue be received, and that the restrictions of the high water billing policy, the restriction portion be waived, and that the remainder of the policy be applied. And if I get a second, and further that the testing fees be for testing the meter be waived. And if I get a seconder, I'll explain the motion.
Second by Councillor Elmsley. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is something very unusual. The people there got an extremely high water bill. They took all reasonable actions once they found out about it. They had their house checked by a qualified plumber. No issues were found. They had the water meter checked and examined. It was found to be working properly. So we don't know what happened. And quite realistically, that doesn't mean it's necessarily somebody else's fault. It's just something that happened. And I don't like that type of scenario. I really don't, but it's what it is. If we grant this relief to Mr. Holtzheimer, it would be the regular policy we have for high water bills. I mean, if he'd identified a leaking toilet, then we would give him relief. But because we couldn't identify a problem, we can't give him relief, which would be an average the last 3 water bills, and the difference is divided in half, and whatever that amount works out to be is the amount that Mr. Holtzheimer would receive as a credit. It's unfortunate, and there's no indication. There's no indication of a pool that he filled up or something like that. I think in today's times with COVID and all the other stresses people are under, it's the appropriate thing to do. Thank you.
So maybe you can just clarify what you're asking council to waive, because you've got that the restrictions in the high water billing
okay.
policy be waived, but the remainder be applied.
Yeah, okay, so in the high water bill policy, it applies to people based on certain criteria. The criteria didn't apply. For example, if I identified a leaking toilet at my house and got my toilet fixed, I could access the high water, I could access the relief from the high water bill. But because I couldn't identify any problem, I'm not allowed to access it. And what I'm saying in this particular case, that we waive that restriction part, and then the rest of the policy would then fall into place.
So what you're asking, I guess, council to waive is the difference between their regular water bill and they got a bill for $1,159. So 50% of that,
50% of that.
and the testing of the meter fee, which is $225.
That's
Just
correct.
so everybody's clear on.
No, that's exactly right.
Okay, so that's what you're moving, that's what you've seconded. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Helmsley? Any questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank Councillor Dunn for bringing that forward. He's sat on the committee before to it. It said it's an unusual situation because staff is just following policy by what they're doing by charging the full rate, and the person, Ms. Olstein, I forget what her pronounce her last, Ms. Anyway, says she got a plumber in, found they couldn't find any leaks, so it's one of those unusual situations. So I think this is a reasonable compromise.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Next extraction, 1213, high water bill relief, 181 Kent Street West. Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Once again, this is, we sold properties were sold, bills weren't sent out. New property owners got dinged. They've paid the bill because they wanted to stop any penalties and anything else coming as a result of that. So they paid the full bill in the amount of $11,075.48. New business in town, opening up, I would make a motion that we waive half of that cost, and they can work it out as to whether or not it's a credit on their water bill or it's a straight refund. Staff can work that portion out, but I think that there should be a refund of, I figured out at $5,537.71, and I don't have a seconder yet.
Okay, so just for clarification, the water bill was paid by the owner who sold the building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they were paid by, they sold it, they had to close the account, right? What was owed on closing, but they weren't told for the whole year that it was in arrears, so they've paid the $11,000, the full amount of the bill. So if we're crediting, they're going back saying, we didn't follow our policy. There's some correspondence that came in your folder against the staff argument. So are you still good with that motion?
I didn't understand it that way. I read the letter and the report wrong, but yes, I'm still good with it.
Okay, so can we just do then report Corp 2021-008, high water bill relief, 181 Kent Street West, Lindsay, be received along with the correspondence we got in?
Sure.
And that the amount of?
$5,537.71. I kept the extra penny for the city, and be
Credited back to the previous property owner.
That's correct.
Okay, moved by Councillor Dunn, second. Deputy Mayor O'Reilly, you've spoke to it? Do you want to, you're good? Do you want to speak to it?
No, it's a bit of an unusual situation as well, too. Somehow it didn't get found by the new property owner through his lawyer, but then, as the mayor has stated, that it probably wasn't really on the, the procedures probably weren't totally followed properly, so this looks like a reasonable compromise.
Any other questions, comments? Councillor Seymour Fagan?
Yes, I'm speaking against the motion because it's a cost of doing business either way. I have a business. If something happens, I have to pay for it. I don't expect the taxpayers to pay for it. And I'm just a little bit confused. Who are we refunding? The original property owner that used the water?
No. They had an owner of the building had a tenant. This is the 181 Kent, the grant. The tenant for 2020 didn't pay the water bill. The owner, according to their letter, was never notified by the city. We have a policy, 30 days you get notified that your tenant is not paying the water bill. 60 days it's supposed to go on your tax bill. His argument is that for the whole year, they were never informed. So when they closed on it in October, they finally found out there was all this arrears from the whole year. So he paid the water bill because he didn't want to incur penalties and interest under protest. And then he's now come back to council saying, you know, there was a policy. If I'd have known in March that it was in arrears, I could have went after the tenant. But because I didn't know till after it closed and the tenant had moved out, he's responsible for the bill. He paid the bill. Councillor Dunn suggesting that we rebate 50% of that back to the owner. And the director's on the line because I've probably said something wrong. So if you need further clarification, but go ahead.
Yeah, so it's still an expense. It's still a cost of doing business, even if you are the landlord and you do write it off as an expense. That's, you know, it's a business and it's their cost. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, and I don't disagree. I just think they're making the argument that if they had been notified according to our policy that it wasn't being paid, then they would have been able to take steps with the tenant to get some of that money back. And that's their argument why they're looking for a bit of a rebate. But Councillor Ashmore, go ahead.
Through you to Director Stover. During the whole year 2020, the owner of that building, they were never notified of that bill, or did they receive confirmation of that bill, or I'm just not 100% sure on that, because from what I'm reading out of it, they never knew that this bill was there. But I'm sure they were billed for it, but is that correct?
So landlords are strongly advised that they should take ownership of the water bill. They choose to have the water bill in the tenant's name, then it's the landlord's responsibility to make sure that their tenant pays the water bill. It's not the city's responsibility. So in this case, the water bill was going to the tenant. The tenant didn't pay their water bill. The city did follow their process and advised the owner within the 30 days. We didn't realize the property was being sold, but we did notify them within the 30 days that $11,000 was outstanding. So we have followed our process contrary to what they're saying. It's up to them. In my mind, it's a matter between the previous owner of this property and their tenant, and they should take legal action that way to recover those costs. This isn't a city matter. The city is well within its rights to transfer those costs to the property taxes in the event that the water is not paid. The owner of the property is responsible at the end of the day for the water bill, not the tenant.
Follow up?
Yeah, please. So there's no consistency in water billing. Sometimes the landlord is notified, but sometimes they're not. Because is it sort of 50-50? Because some people who rent their house out, they may keep it in their name, the landlord's name, or they may keep it in the tenant's name. So is there a consistent policy there, or is it? It sounds like it's not uniform. Some places, some owners keep the bill themselves, but then some don't. So that's what I'm kind of confused about. Do we have a policy that says that it has to be transferred in the tenant's name or not?
Director?
So we don't necessarily have a policy that says that. We strongly recommend that landlords keep the water bill within their own name so that they're aware of what's happening with the water bill and that they recover the cost of the water on a monthly basis from their tenant if that's the arrangement they have. But you can appreciate that we don't know what the agreement is between the landlord and the tenant as far as utilities go. We just notify at the time the account's set up. We notify the landlord that if they choose to put the water bill in the tenant's name, that ultimately they are responsible if their tenant doesn't pay.
So I've got you, Kathleen. Just for my clarification then, Director, first, if you don't mind. I guess where I'm a bit confused is we say we followed the policy 30 days after closing, you know, they were notified, and I don't think they're disputing that. But where I'm a little bit confused is if this was in arrears for the whole year, and we send out a water bill for January, February, March, and it wasn't paid in 30 days or 60 days, why wasn't the landlord notified at that point? I mean, yes, we notified them 30 days after closing, but by then they were $11,000 in arrears. Would it not, does our policy not say if they don't pay that original bill in 30 days, then the landlord should be notified? And they're saying they didn't find out till, 9 months into the process. So I'm just a little confused on if that's our process or not.
So it is not our process on a regular billing cycle to notify the landlord that their tenant has not paid the bill. We don't have the manpower for that. We don't necessarily have the knowledge of whether it's a tenanted property or an owner property. So we simply send the bills out and hope that the tenant pays it. But again, that caveat to the landlord that it's their responsibility. Last year was a bit of a special situation in that because of COVID, council had waived penalty and interest. And so we were giving all businesses the opportunity to pay their water bill over time and not necessarily keep it current, recognizing the pressures that were on them with closures and things like that. But the city has followed its policy, and we have legal opinion that we have done so as well. It's likely important to also note that the owner of this property did not request a water certificate or a tax certificate at the time of closing, and they would have been notified at that point that the water bill was in arrears, and the city wouldn't have had to do that follow-up within the 30 days.
Thank you. Councillor Seymour Fagan, go ahead.
Thank you, through you. To the director, I recall, so we have both commercial property and I'm a tenant in commercial property. And I recall having to sign off, and landlords have had to sign off when the billing is put in my name or their name or whichever way it is. Isn't that correct?
So that is correct, but I don't know historically how long we've been doing that for and whether this property was part of that process.
Interesting. Any further questions, comments? Do you want to sum up, Councillor Dunn?
No, I'll pass, thank you.
Okay, everybody's clear on the motion? Excuse me. That the report be received along with the correspondence, and that the $5,537.71 be credited back to the original owner of the building. I'll call the question. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion passes. Thank you. Next extraction is 1216. Construction of concrete sidewalks, curbs, and gutters. Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you. Through you to, I guess, someone in purchasing, or just a question about this. It seems that we have a bidder that's came very close on a local company. I'm just wondering how much does that weigh into this when we especially want to employ local contractors? And nothing negative about the winner of this tender, but we had a local contractor here on this list here, a few of them. And did they get any weight in this criteria when you do this type of exercise? Like, it just didn't seem to. It was disappointing when someone local doesn't get this contract. It's a fairly good sized contract too. So I'm just wondering if that criteria, being local, obviously they have to be qualified, but being local, does that help? Hopefully it does. But just
It does. I'll ask, I guess, Director Stover again. Did you hear the question, Jennifer? I don't think it does help. It's a tender. So it's based strictly on price, and as long as they meet the criteria of what needs to be done and get good references, I think we're obligated to award it to the lowest bidder, but I'll let the director comment. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely correct, Mayor Letham. When it's a tender, price is the only factor. And so we're obligated to award to the lowest qualified bidder. And so as long as the mayor mentioned, as long as they have met the criteria that we've outlined, they have good references, then it gets awarded to the lowest cost. And there's no consideration for where the company is actually located.
Okay, that's the answer, that's the answer. but
Yep,
kinda
no,
disappointing, but
that's the
answer.
purchasing policy, and it's probably in the municipal act as well. We'd probably get sued if we started saying, you know what, we like local business as well, but we have to follow the rules, obviously. So I need a mover for that motion. Councillor Riley, you'll move it as printed. Second by Councillor Elmsley. You want to speak to it?
No, it's just, I think Jennifer's explained it, but our contractors go to other municipalities too, to tender, so it goes both ways, kind of sometimes, so I'm sure Councillor Yo's been in other municipalities, and whether he's still allowed there or not is another question, but anyways, yeah.
It works everywhere, you're right. So we have a mover for the motion as printed. Any questions? Councillor Yo?
Thank you, and the question, and I don't know if anybody would know, but question through you. I thought there was legislation on the table to actually allow local bonusing at one point in the past couple of years. And if there's any knowledge of that, or if I had a dream, I don't know. But I thought there was, at the provincial level, something coming down the pipe about local bonusing for tenders.
Director, are you still with us?
I am.
Did you hear
I have no knowledge of that, but I can certainly look into it.
I haven't heard anything about it either. Yeah. Councillor Dunn, go ahead.
Yeah, back in '98, when I was on town council, there was preference to that. I think they allowed a 10% bonus, but it disappeared shortly after I joined council. But it was at one time.
Any other questions on the tender? Call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Next extraction is 1219, the City Hall Bell Cupola. Councillor Elmsley. Did I pronounce that right? Cupola? Cupola?
Capola, I think, but I didn't. My Italian's not that great. I guess my point on this, Mr. Mayor, is my recollection is that 2-3 years ago, we spent in the neighborhood of $1 million on the roof to replace a whole bunch of things. And I'm just curious as to why this wasn't included, and also should it have not been included, and is there any way we can go back on the contractor who did the roof to do this work without us ponying up $35,000?
I'll direct the question to the director, but I know the manager of building and property is on the line as well. So, Mr. Shanks, whoever you think is appropriate to answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the council. So the work that was done a few years ago that the councillor is referring to was restoration work, and the bell cupola was not, in fact, included in that from a restoration standpoint. It was more painting of the bell cupola, and there is no warranty currently for that. What we're dealing with now is water getting inside, so it's more of a structural issue. So hopefully that provides the information. If the councillor requests or wishes for more, then certainly Manager Peterson is available to provide some additional details.
No, I don't need any more information. I was just curious as to why, when they were painting it, they wouldn't have looked at the state of it and seen that perhaps it needed to be upgraded. So I guess it's just disappointment with with our supplier, who I don't think did us a good service by not pointing out that we needed to fix this at the time and just went ahead and painted it. So there's nothing to do but fix it now. We don't want it to fall off the roof. But I did want to make the point that We did spend a lot of money on that roof, and the fact that this wasn't included creates a certain amount of disappointment in me with whoever the supplier was who did the work. Thank you.
I'll just add then, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, and I certainly understand what he's saying, but I think it is somewhat unfair because it really wasn't in the purview of the contract at the time for them to provide that information. So, but it's certainly understood what is being discussed.
Thank you. Any questions, comments extracted? I need a mover for either this or another motion. Councillor Dunn? You'll move it as printed. Councillor Helmsley, seconded by Councillor Dunn. Any questions? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. And we have 12-110, extraction by Councillor Richardson, eligibility review for curbside leaf and yard collection. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you. With this report, we're given a couple of different options, and we're also looking at a 2-year pilot project. So I was wondering if maybe the director could give us a bit of an overview, and I know most of us councillors have been getting emails regarding this such topic, so it might be a good time to have a discussion as well.
Director, are you there? Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. So Councillor's just wondering if you give us a quick overview on just what's being proposed here.
Absolutely. The report WM 2021-007 talks about leaf and yard waste curbside collection for the city of Kawartha Lakes. It's a service that's been offered for several years, where we typically have one leaf and yard collection in the spring and 2 collections in the fall. It's a service that's provided under contract with Miller Waste. In addition to curbside collection, residents have the ability to bring leaf and yard waste directly to the landfill, up to 250 kilograms free of charge. So this is an additional initiative for the city to try to divert leaf and yard waste away from garbage and actually bring it to the landfill to recycle, compost, and reuse that material. Council was asked to take a look at, or staff have been asked to look at this in the past. In this particular case, what had happened and what triggered this report was staff reviewing services that are being provided in relation to council approved policy and bylaws related to what services should be provided to the public. It was noted through the review that there was some collection happening outside of those approved bylaws. So staff made some correction to the services through the provider, which then triggered some concerns and discussion from the public as to what should and shouldn't be happening. The bylaw as it currently stands, we collect leaf and yard waste from residential properties, low residential properties, as well as mobile home parks that are year-round permanent mobile home parks. So we collect from those properties. The exclusions from that are high-density residential properties, so apartment buildings, residents of 3 dwellings or more within a particular building, as well as seasonal trailer park homes. So those are not collected from or not included for within the bylaw. So staff had the discussion with our contractor looking at options and came up with a couple of potential options. The recommended option is to pilot a 2-year review of enabling collection at our multi-res facilities, our multi-res buildings and properties, and then evaluate over the course of those 2 years the success of that program and then the additional cost impact of that program with a report back to council. Option 2 in the report is to also include the mobile or the seasonal trailer park homes. There's some concern about the mobile trailer park homes just because of the sheer size of the property and the potential of the amount of leaf and yard waste that would be generated at those properties. So we're recommending option 1, which is to continue the current bylaw and add in the multi-residential properties within the city. That's the quick overview. I could probably go on forever, but any questions about that, I'm more than willing to answer them.
We don't want you to go on forever. Thank you. Councillor, where do you want to go?
I think there's some more questions around the table, maybe before we...
See if we're finished with you first. You extracted it. Are you good with the overview?
I'm good with the overview.
Okay. I'll move on then. Okay. Councillor Seymour Fagan, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, through you, to the director. So I want to thank you for this, because it seemed that there was one property in Bob Cajun that was caught in this. And I know that all the other properties, the condos, apartment buildings, and everything, have been having leaf and yard waste pickup. So this one didn't get it. So I know it caused a kerfuffle within the area. And I know that most of the buildings have been having the leaf and yard waste pickup across the municipality this entire time. So I just want to say thanks for this one. And the trailer parks, now, have they been having leaf and yard waste pickup? The seasonal ones?
Sorry, through you to the councillor, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. We tried to get those details and specifics from Miller as to where they had been providing those stops. So if you look at the multi-res, there's probably an additional 300 stops that Miller will need to make as part of that. We don't have specific details of what mobile home or trailer parks have been collected. Part of the reason for the pilot is there's about approximately 30 trailer parks within the municipality that we would, as part of the pilot, document exactly who's participating and the volume of material received from those, in order to then better estimate the cost of the program moving forward. So the city has a current annual budget of about $87,000 for the 3 collection events, and obviously as we expand and build on that program, those program costs will increase. So this will give us an opportunity to come back to council with a better handle on projected cost impacts for our budget.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Richardson. What do you wish to do, Councillor?
I'll move the report.
As printed?
As printed.
Option 1,
Yes.
which does not include season or trailer parks?
Can we put both of them in for a pilot program for 2 years?
That's option 2.
Option 2.
Option 1 is what's printed, is what staff are recommending. Option 2 is to include seasonal trailer parks in the 2-year pilot project.
I will change that motion and go with option 2 then.
Except option 2. Okay, second by Councillor Yeo. Do you want to speak to it? Councillor Yeo? Anyone else? Questions? Comments? Go ahead, Councillor Riley.
I think I'm going to speak against the motion, just on the fact that I think we don't know how much it's really going to, how big these trailer parks are. Not that they should be not treated the same as we're talking year-round people. We're certainly treating them like it's they're year-round people. But the trailer parks, they're huge properties, and we don't know how much it's. So I think I would go. My preference would be option 1 for the at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Elmsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Option 2, and it is as a pilot project, so you're going to get a second kick at it sometime down the road. There are resort trailer parks that were included. I have one in my ward, and they were very upset when they were told last year that despite having had their leaf and yard waste picked up for well over 30 years, all of a sudden it was stopped. So I think there is a history of picking it up there. I'm sorry that we don't have the actual statistics on it, but I think that to be consistent, I've said all along that where we have provided a service, we shouldn't be taking it away. And this was certainly an example where we were taking away a service. And what was pointed out to me by the owner of this park and resort was that the individuals actually are considered residents, and they could, I suppose, if you wanted push to come to shove, they could all put out a garbage can instead of having, a huge waste disposal bin on site, which would increase our costs even more. So I think that in fairness, and because it's a pilot, option 2 makes a lot of sense, and we can sort out the statistics when it comes back with the results of the pilot program. So I think option 2 makes a great deal of sense and picks back up those people that we stopped a service from.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that it's not just who lost this service. It wasn't consistent across the municipality. Some were getting picked up, some weren't. So what we're trying to do is put a program in place, not just for those who lost it, but maybe for some that never had it, and say, let's be consistent across the municipality. There's going to be a cost to it, and I certainly agree with the motion. I think it's let's treat everybody the same. Let's get the cost. Let's come back in a couple of years and see where we're at. So, and it's going to, as it says in the report, it's going to keep some of this material out of our landfill costs, which saves us money in the long run as well. So, Councillor Yeo, go ahead.
Through your Mr. Mayor. No, you and Councillor Elmsley summed up my thoughts, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Any questions? Do you want to sum up? You're good? So everybody's clear on the motion as printed, except option 2 for a 2-year pilot project. Call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. That's it for our consent agenda. We do have another report, the request for the proposal, supply and delivery of 1 new rescue pumper. We're going to deal with that after closed session. We have some information in closed, and we'll come back and deal with that extracted item after. So we'll move down to item 13, which is petitions. We have a petition from resident concerns regarding gate barriers on the Victoria Rail Trail corridor between Knox Crescent and Northline Road from Michael Hoskins. A complete copy of the petition is available in the clerk's office. I would recommend that we receive and refer this petition to the Trails Master Plan project for when it's completed. If I can get a mover and a seconder. Councillor Seymour Fagan, seconded by Councillor Vale. Questions? All in favor? That's passed. 13.2 is a petition regarding resident concerns regarding the proposed city docking policy from Pearl Hellawell. A complete copy of the petition is again available in the clerk's office. We do have a public process, so I would recommend we receive the petition and refer it to the public process later this year for information back. Moved by Councillor Ashmore, seconded by Councillor Yeo. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. New business, we amended agenda. We added a memo from 14.1 from in your folder from Rebecca Mustard. Very time sensitive. Rebecca brought it forward this morning. It was she's on the line if we have any questions. We did approve applying for this. We got funds for it before. This is a new program. It's 100%, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's 100% funded by the province. It's $2.2 million with a contribution from Fleming College, and it's for skills development. And we have to have approval back to them by the end of March, and we found out this morning. So that's why it was walked onto the agenda. So, question? You'll move it as printed, the memo? Thank you. Second by Councillor Yeo. Question? Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, I'm just looking at the numbers, and my first question was, is it 2.2 million, which it is, but the partner contribution of, is that $26 from Fleming College? I hope it's 26,000.
Go ahead, Rebecca. Yeah, we know you did this in a hurry, so go ahead.
My apologies, yes. Plus 26,000 from Fleming into the project.
Thank you. I was going to hit him up for more.
Yeah. Any further questions on the memo? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thanks, Rebecca, for getting this done. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move into bylaws. Councillor Elmsley, you have the bylaws. Are there any extractions from the bylaws? Questions? Seeing none, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dunn, that the bylaws shown in section 15.1 of the agenda, namely items 15.1.1, 2 and including 15.1.7, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, numbered, signed, and the corporate seal attached.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? That's passed. What do we got here? Notice of motion. We have none. Closed session. Can I get a motion for the adoption of the closed session agenda, please? Councillor Yeo, seconded by Councillor Dunn. All in favor? That's passed. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in closed session items? Seeing none, can I get a motion, please, to move into closed? Councillor Vail, seconded by Councillor Ashmore. All in favor? Okay, we're going to go into close, so we're going to take a break from the camera. Let's take 10 minutes. We've got a bit of correspondence if you want to catch up on it, and then we'll come back and do closed. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. We're going to deal with matters from in open session, matters from closed session. Madam Clerk.
Matters from closed session, item 17.3.1, the confidential closed session minutes from February 23rd, 2021 regular council meeting and from the March 16th, 2021 special council meeting were approved. Item 17.3.2 being a report LIB 2021-001, a motion is required. That the following members of the public be appointed to the City of Kawartha Lakes Public Library Board for a 2-year term ending December 31, 2022. Vanessa Doucette Rocher, Frank Morris, Kate Wynn.
Thank you. Mover, Councillor Vail. Second by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Any questions? All in favor? That's passed. Yep, go ahead, Ron.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think there might be a follow-up resolution on the second page with respect to the terms of reference for that as well. It's not just an appointment request. I just didn't hear you read the third recommendation in the report. Just reducing the meeting requirements under the terms of reference.
Correct. That the terms of reference for the Kawartha Lakes Public Library Board be amended to reduce the meeting requirement from 10 meetings per year to 7 meetings per year.
Okay, good catch. Thank you. You'll move that, Councillor Vail. Deputy Mayor O'Reilly, all in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Go ahead.
Item 17.3.3 being Report Plan 2021-013. A motion is required. That the following member of the public be appointed to the Planning Advisory Committee for a 2-year term ending December 31, 2022. Wayne Brumwell.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dunn, second by Councillor Vail. All in favor? That's passed.
Item 17.3.4 being Report CS 2021-003. A motion is required that the following members of the public be appointed to the Bob Cajun Legacy Chest Fund Grant Committee for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2022. Tim Young, Beth Gilroy, and Adair.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Elmsley, second by Councillor Seymour Fagan. All in favor? That's passed.
Item 17.3.5 being Report RS 2021-012. Council received an update and provided direction on the County Road 121 acquisition.
Moved by Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Vail. All in favor? That's passed.
Item 7, we didn't need a motion on that one. That was, oh, yes.
I'd like to do a follow-up resolution to that resolution that staff work with the, I don't know how she worded it, but work with the property owners to, for non-compliance should the property transactions take place.
Do you have any wording there, Ron? Just, do you remember from what Robin was suggesting for wording, just so we get it straight?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think the recommendation was for staff to review, should there be any zoning impacts as a result, to explore site-specific zoning amendments to recognize the sort of reduced or the impact resulting from the land acquisition.
That's what you wanted? Okay. Moved by, you got it? You, moved by Councillor Yeo, second by Councillor Elmsley. You don't want to speak to it? We're good? Okay, all in favor? That's passed. That's a good follow-up. Thank you for that. Go ahead.
Item 17.3.6, Council received an update on the request for proposal evaluation report for the supply and delivery of 1 new rescue pumper. Motion required for item 17.3.7 being report LGL 2021-004. you want me to do it in 4 resolutions, or do you want me to do one? Okay. Okay. The council consider a summary of comments made by members of the public at the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on March 10th, 2021, and those comments received following that meeting with respect to Draft Order 2, which delineates the pre-2012 urban settlement area boundaries as attached as Appendix B to Report LGL 2021-004. That council consider a summary of concerns expressed by members of the public with respect to the proposal by some of the parties to remove the candidate sites from the urban settlement areas, which would be a removal from the boundaries at Order 2 and Appendix B to Report LGL 2021-004. That pursuant to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal's order issued on February 9th, 2021, Council recommends to the Tribunal that the Local Planning Appeals Tribunal issue Draft Order 1, being proposed amendments to the City of Kawartha Lakes Official Plan 2012 and Official Plan Amendment 13 as attached as Appendix A to Report LGL 2021-004, and that pursuant to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal's order issued on February 9th, 2021, Council recommends to the Tribunal that the Local Planning Appeals Tribunal issue Draft Order 2, which delineates the pre-2012 urban settlement area boundaries with the schedules to the City of Kawartha Lakes Official Plan 2012, as attached as Appendix B to Report LGL 2021-004.
Thank you. You get a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor O'Reilly, seconded by Councillor Vale. Questions? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. And we want to do a follow-up motion at this point. Councillor Yeo, did you want to put forward that?
Yeah, I'll put forward, do it as one motion, I guess. That City Council is supportive of exploring minutes of settlement with parties to accommodate boundary adjustments for those lands identified within the 2012 City Official Plan urban boundaries, provided that those minutes of settlement...
Sorry, where are you getting that from? Is this from the...
Yeah, the second page. Sorry, I started backwards.
I'm just not sure I got the same resolution.
No.
It's on page 3.
I think it was the 2 here that we wanted to do in the italices. That? 2 on page 2?
Oh, I was talking about the one on page 3. They're both legal opinions.
They are. One was from Robin and the other one was a legal opinion from outside counsel, so...
Yeah, there's no harm in doing both of them, is there?
Well, they say the same thing. It's just 2 different wording, but you've got...
I'm sorry,
hang on,
in my mind, one speaks to minutes of settlement and the other one speaks to candidates.
We've got the 2 here, but let me just get clarification from Ron. Go ahead.
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity, and sorry for the confusion. So what we provided was, as part of the background, sort of the progression from when we last met as council. So the one that is being cited currently by the councillor was the very preliminary sort of draft resolutions that I gathered from your input at a previous session. Those had since been vetted with our staff as well as outside legal. And so the response back now is the fine-tuned recommended versions. They predominantly have the same content, but they're making sure that we don't prejudice any of our current settlement agreements up to this point, and really just highlight certain elements. So to the mayor's point, the 2 in italics resolutions that are part of the legal opinion are the fine-tuned versions of what at least staff would recommend if council wanted to pursue those 2 options. And both should be brought forward as recommended.
Yeah, we can
by
do
the
them both
council.
as one motion, like the same motion, but those would be the 2 we would certainly recommend, Emmett.
Okay, sorry about that. I like Ron's better. Okay, start over again. That the city does not oppose further adjustments being made to the boundary shown in draft order 2 through the OPA 13 LPAT appeal proceedings pursuant to the 2019 growth plan policy 2.2.8.4, as long as the tribunal is satisfied that any such adjustments are in keeping with the applicable statutory tests and provincial requirements, including the 2019 growth plan requirements, based on the evidence that is before the tribunal, and as long as the tribunal duly considers any objections that owners of candidate sites have raised through the public comment process. And that City Council generally supports the methodology that has been developed by the expert land use planners for the purposes of trying to resolve the outstanding Phase 1 hearing issues pertaining to the appeals of OPA 13.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Yeo, second by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Any questions? Call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you for that. Is that all we have in closed, Madam Clerk? Okay, so let's go back to our report 18.1. Well, no, I've added fire purchasing report, which was the supply and delivery of one new rescue pumper. We have a motion in front of us. What does council wish to do? Councillor Yeo?
I'll give you a motion to receive.
Just a motion to receive. Thank you. Second by Councillor Ashmore. Comments? Do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, just briefly, it's just a motion to receive because given the fact that this new fire tanker is the start of a new round of fire trucks, it's going to take us through the next fleet turnover. I think it's time we seriously look at the trucks we're using and the affordability going forward, as this is now almost $700,000 per unit, and we have a lot of these to buy over the next few years, and will continue to go up in price. So I'm voting to receive this only and perhaps do a follow-up motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to receive. All in favor? That's passed. Anybody want to do a follow-up? Follow-up to this motion first before you do your other follow-up. Does anybody? This is a fire truck that's going to cost us a lot more money down the road. I agree, we need to go back and review, but this is approved in the 2019 capital budget, and we should wrap this up, get it where we're going, and then, you know, if you want to do a follow-up to review them at a later date, but we certainly don't have to because it's over budget, so that's just my argument. But what? So you'll move the remainder as printed? Yes. Okay, thank you. Second? First call for a seconder? Second call? Third call? Motion fails. Councillor Yeo, follow-up?
Follow-up motion that, and I do appreciate the trying to pass the motion as it was done in the budget, but considering it's over $80,000 over what we approved in the budget, I think that's what council is raising their eyebrows at. And so I will do a follow-up motion that, in fact, council and staff in conjunction with staff and any outside professional help, look at the equipment the fire department is currently using and how we can go forward with a more affordable option while maintaining a level of service. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Yeo, second. Councillor Dunn, you want to speak to it, Councillor? Nope. Councillor Dunn? Nope. Any questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor, our Deputy.
I'm just wondering the thoughts on, we've already approved this in our budget, and the thoughts are we needed this project, we need this truck, and it's approved in our budget. So do you have any thoughts about we're not going to replace it, just leave it out for a year? Or?
Well, my thoughts are the money we approved was $600,000. So I guess you could do another follow-up motion if you like, that staff go back and negotiate with the bidder and how we can reduce the price to what was budgeted for, I guess, if you wanted to do that.
Let me just throw in there, that has nothing to do with his motion. So we've moved on to a follow-up. Let's deal with that first. The motion that you tried to put forward didn't get a seconder, so it's not going to happen. So we'll just deal with what Councillor Yeo has put forward. Councillor Dunn, go ahead.
we're doing a moratorium right now unless they come up with a $600 some odd $1,000 truck. So it's a moratorium until we figure out where we want to go, because this is a watershed moment. And if it takes us an extra 4 or 5, 6 months to actually come up with it, because what decision we make now is going to affect our fire service for the next 30 years, 20 years. And if we have to take a little bit of time, now's the time to take the time, and we'll still get but we're not talking about not replacing a truck. We're just not replacing a truck today.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion has passed. Are you recommending anything else, or are you good? Okay, letter B. Do we have anything else on our agenda? Have I gone back and covered it and kind of jumped all over the place? I think we're good. Okay, well, thank goodness for that. Item 19, Councillor Yeo, confirming bylaw for today's proceedings, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Kathleen Seymour Fagan. Sorry, the numerous names got me. Seconded by Councillor Seymour Fagan, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of a regular council meeting held Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021, be read a first, second, third time, passed, numbered, signed, and the corporate seal attached.
Thank you. All in favor? That's passed. Motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Yeo and Dunn, all in favor? That motion is passed. Thank you. Have a great evening.